The Delphi murders were actually solved on February 16, 2017, just 72 hours after the bodies were found. While the FBI was launching a multi-million-dollar manhunt, while billboards with a grainy photo were going up in 46 states, the killer was standing in a grocery store parking lot, casually talking to a conservation officer. He gave them his real name. He told them he was on the bridge. He admitted he was wearing the exact clothes seen in the video. He handed them the solution to the puzzle on a silver platter. And then, the police lost the piece of paper. This isn't just a story about a murder. This is the story of a clerical error that let a monster walk free for 1,996 days. To understand how he got away with it, you have to understand the geography of the trap. The Monon High Bridge is a relic of a different era. It has no guardrails. It has rotting ties with gaps wide enough to fall through. It hovers 60 feet above Deer Creek. Once you step onto it, you are committed. There is no running left or right. You can only go forward or back. On February 13, 2017, the weather in Delphi was unseasonably warm. Liberty German and Abigail Williams did what any teenagers would do. They went for a hike. At 2:07 p.m., Libby posted a photo of Abby walking across the bridge. If you look at that photo, it seems peaceful. But if you look at the background, the trap was already closing. Libby saw him coming. A man in a blue jacket, jeans, head down, hands in his pockets, walking with a purpose. Most 14-year-olds would have frozen, or panicked, or simply looked away. Libby German did something extraordinary. She pulled out her phone and she hit record. 3 words: down the hill. Those words ended the hike, but they started a timeline that would baffle the world. Because by 3:15 p.m., when Libby's father arrived to pick them up, the girls were gone, evaporated. The next day, Valentine's Day, the bodies were found about half a mile upstream. Police immediately told the public, there is no immediate threat to the community. Therefore, the town breathed a sigh of relief. They assumed it was a personal vendetta. They were wrong. The threat wasn't just in the community. He was watching the news reports about his own crime. In the weeks that followed, the investigation spiraled into chaos. Eyewitnesses gave conflicting accounts. Police released a sketch of a man who looked to be in his 40s or 50s, heavy-set, a hat. The public spent 2 years looking for this man. But then, in 2019, the police held a press conference that changed everything. They released a new sketch, a younger man, clean-shaven. They said, "We may have been looking for the wrong person." The confusion was absolute. Was it a father and son team? Was the first sketch wrong? Was the second sketch the killer? While the public argued over sketches, the FBI went down a digital rabbit hole. They uncovered a disturbing catfishing profile named Anthony_Shots, a profile used by a man named Kagan Klein to lure young girls. It seemed like the perfect answer: a predator, an online lure, a meeting gone wrong. Millions of tax dollars and thousands of man-hours were poured into this theory. They searched in Utah. They searched in Colorado. They were looking for a sophisticated, traveling killer. They assumed the silence meant he was a ghost. However, the silence didn't mean he was gone. It meant he was comfortable. The man on the bridge wasn't in Utah. He was working at the CVS on Main Street. He was a pharmacy technician. He filled prescriptions for the detectives working the case. He didn't burn his blue jacket. He hung it in his closet. He didn't throw his gun in the river. He kept it in a box. He was hiding in the one place nobody thought to look: the cleared file. This is the turning point. The moment justice failed. Rewind to February 2017, 3 days after the bodies are found. Richard Allen is nervous. He knows he was on the trail. He knows he parked his car at the old Child Services building, a weird place to park. He assumes someone saw him. So he decides to control the narrative. He decides to hide in plain sight. He doesn't go to the police station. He doesn't sit in an interrogation room. He approaches a conservation officer, Dan Doolin, outside a grocery store. It's casual, informal, and Richard Allen tells the truth. He says, "I was there. I was watching fish." He admits to being on the bridge between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m. If you are a detective, this is a confession. The girls went missing exactly during that window. Allen put himself at the scene of the crime, at the time of the crime, wearing the clothes of the killer. So why wasn't he arrested? Bureaucracy. The tip was written down, but it wasn't flagged as a priority. Some reports say his name was misfiled as Richard Allen Whiteman. Others say the officer marked the lead as cleared because Allen came forward voluntarily. Whatever the reason, the paper was filed away. And for 5 years, Richard Allen sat in that box. Fast forward to September 2022. Kathy Schenk, a volunteer file clerk, is organizing the mountain of old tips. She opens a box. She sees the name, Richard Allen. She sees the time, 1:30 to 3:30. She looks at the current suspect list. Richard Allen isn't on it. She realizes that while the world was looking for a mastermind, the killer had given them his name 5 years ago. October 2022, the raid. When police entered Richard Allen's home, they didn't find a criminal lair. They found a domestic life. But in the closet, hanging on a peg, was a blue Carhartt jacket. And in a box, they found a .40 caliber Sig Sauer pistol. This brings us to the evidence that sealed his fate. You see, there was no DNA from the killer found on the girls, but there was something else. Lying between the bodies of Abby and Libby was a single, unspent bullet. It had never been fired, but it had been cycled. When you load a round into a chamber and then eject it without firing, the metal mechanism leaves microscopic scratches on the brass casing. They are as unique as a fingerprint. The Indiana State Police lab matched the scratches on the bullet found between the girls to the gun found in Richard Allen's closet. The ghost finally had a weapon. You would think, with the gun and the confession, the trial would be simple. It was not. In 2024, the trial became a spectacle of the bizarre. Richard Allen's defense team didn't just claim he was innocent. They claimed he was the victim of a grand conspiracy. They argued that the girls were sacrificed by a white nationalist group called the Odinists. They claimed the crime scene was full of ritualistic symbols made of sticks and blood. They even claimed the prison guards watching Allen were part of the cult. It was a strategy designed to confuse, to create reasonable doubt through sheer insanity. But the jury had something else to listen to: Richard Allen's own voice. While in prison, Allen made phone calls to his wife and mother. Over 60 times he confessed. He said, "I did it. I killed Abby and Libby." He said he wanted to sexually assault them, but got spooked by a van nearby and killed them instead. The jury didn't buy the Odinist theory. On November 11th, 2024, they found him guilty on all counts. And in December, the judge sentenced him to 130 years in prison. He will die in a concrete box, much smaller than the one his file was lost in. Justice is often depicted as blind. In the case of Delphi, it wasn't blind. It was just disorganized. We want to believe that evil is brilliant. We want to believe that monsters are geniuses who stay one step ahead of the law. It comforts us. But Richard Allen wasn't a genius. He was a man who got lucky. He was a man who walked free for 5 years, not because he was smart, but because we are fallible. The silence in Delphi has finally been broken. But the question remains, how many other files are sitting in boxes waiting for someone to open them?